Chapter IV. How to work. Above all else, the work must be made convenient, interesting, and inexpensive. The form of the materials provided and the plan of work required have been made absolutely flexible and adjustable to every circumstance. For this reason, it is necessary for the patron to lay out his own plan of work, suited to his taste and circumstances. All the material comes in loose leaf form, so that each page can be filed and arranged in relation to every other item of material according to the individual ideas of the patron. The arrangement and filing of this material, the responses and notes written by the patron under the stimulation of the questions, together with clippings, articles, notes on reading, etc., is an essential part of the process of developing intelligence and must therefore be planned so as to be most convenient and interesting. All the items of materials, responses, notes, articles, etc., including everything that can be filed, constitute the record. The record may take three forms: 3x5 sheets or cards which can be filed in trays or drawers very conveniently, pages of the size of this one which can be filed in 6x8 loose leaf binders, and pages 81 over 2x11 in size which can be filed in the standard 10x 111 over 2 loose leaf binders. The 6x8 pages will be punched for the binder so as to fit also in the 10x 111 over 2 binder. The cards are very convenient for carrying about in the pocket, making it easy to utilize odd moments which otherwise might be wasted. The habit of making a record of ideas on cards which can later be filed under the proper theme and which will automatically fall under the eye whenever the record on that particular theme is again consulted will be found to be most profitable. It will be noticed that the theme questions are printed so that they can be cut out in 3x5 sheets or cards. A 6x8 book may also be carried in the pocket, but is not quite so convenient for recording brief notes, nor is it so easy to file them in large numbers for future reference. All material can be kept in its proper place, and clippings of moderate size can be inserted. A 10x 111 over 2 binder is too bulky for the pocket, but it has the advantage of taking large pages intermingled with those of smaller size. Large clippings and pages from magazines, etc., can be inserted easily by punching holes on the margin or pasting the material on blank sheets already punched. If the materials accumulate too rapidly, instead of buying so many binders, it might be better to use vertical filing cases. The record that you gradually build up by daily accumulation in writing should become a material counterpart of your mind. The mind is composed of ideas, organized into associations or relationships, so that when we think of one idea, all those tied up with it are brought forward also. The record is composed of sheets of paper bearing printed words and sentences which are symbols and counterparts of ideas. The arrangement of these sheets in the binders and files should reflect by proximity or remoteness the relationship or association which the corresponding ideas have in the mind. In the course of time you will have the equivalent of a library, much of it written by yourself, containing only things you are particularly interested in, highly condensed and thoroughly familiar to you. The peculiar value of this record lies not only in the fact that it is a material reflection in concrete form of the content of your own mind, but that the spatial relationship of the contents represents the actual association of ideas in your mind. Begin the work of intellectual development by starting the record in your working file. Select certain themes in which you have the greatest interest, preferably those that are near the beginning of a course as indicated by low index numbers. Assemble the material at hand, together with such other matter as you think should classify under that theme. Write down on the blank cards or pages the ideas which occur to you in response to the questions. Compare these responses with what you have previously written on this and all related themes with a view to reconciling inconsistencies and expanding your concept of the idea. For a few days, the novelty of this work will probably furnish motive power enough to carry it along. As the novelty wears off, the motive power must come from the force of habit or from the feeling of satisfaction which the activity itself generates. Persons who do not form habits quickly or to whom the irksomeness of mental activity offsets the satisfaction of results may have to go through a period of discouragement until the impediments fade out. Such persons should make a special effort to make use of the assistance which comes from collective activity, from the comparison of your responses with others, from discussions where ideas differ, and from the stimulus which comes out of interchange of ideas. Our educational institutions have yet to apply in their methods and processes the principle that instruction should start at the point of the student's greatest interest, and extend outward in all directions from that point. Artificially stimulated interest in the stock and trade of the institution leads to skill in mental juggling with abstract ideas, but it is not real education. Perhaps to get a genuine interest in the important matters of life, it may be necessary to thrust the youth into the realities of existence rather than carefully sequestering them in academic isolation. Already there is an easily discernible tendency among the educational institutions to adapt themselves to people busy with making a living, notably schools of business economics. Work out your own education by expanding in all directions from your present interests. You will presently find yourself in the midst of the great truths of human life, acquaintance with which is culture. If you are one of the great majority of people, your chiefest interest is or should be in your job because most of your waking time is expended upon it. Starting in to discover the full meaning and true interpretation of your job will ultimately lead you by easy stages and ever-increasing interest into business science, economics, history, philosophy, ethics, political science, and religion. Only in very recent years has there appeared a business literature filling up the gaps between the workaday interests and the scientific interpretation of them. Self-education is now much more practicable for the average person if he can only find his way and get this mass of ideas into some kind of orderly arrangement in his mind. Find a theme which appeals to your immediate interest, and by the use of the cross-references follow it up forward and backward. Establish contact with accessible library and get better acquainted with the writers to whom this book introduces you. You will quickly find yourself in an unlimited field with a card of introduction to the greatest minds that have thought through the subjects which are puzzling you. A fool may answer questions and become wise thereby, but it takes a wise man to ask questions whereby the fool may become wise. Intelligence stands ready to enter the mind whenever vagueness of thought and laxity of utterance have been expelled.